Released in America on August 10th, 2010 via the PlayStation Network and August 25th, 2010 via the Xbox Live Arcade, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, is a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up. I've been a fan of Scott Pilgrim since around 2008 or so. I absolutely love the comics, the characters, and the story. 2010 comes around and I hear about a movie adaptation as well as an awesome looking video game tie-in. I watched the movie, absolutely love the humor, visuals, and how faithful it is as an abridged version of the books, and can't wait to play the game. Only one problem: I didn't own either of the consoles it was for. So I struck a deal with my grandmother. If I didn't act up and I got good grades in my freshman year of high school, she would buy me a PS3 for Christmas. Long story short, I got a PS3 for one game. I was 13 going at 14 at the time, so I didn't have my rule of wanting at least 3 to 5 games on a console before buying it yet, and I did eventually find a bunch of great games, some of which I'm still finding nowadays, but the point still stands: I got a $250 console to play a $15 digital-only title. Was it worth it? Well, let's see. Let us reminisce on Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. After meeting at a party, Scott Pilgrim becomes infatuated with a girl named Ramona Flowers. Things begin to kick off and they start to get into a relationship. But Ramona informs Scott that if they are going to continue dating, Scott will need to defeat her 7 evil exes. And so the adventure begins. Each character you play as has their own ending, but most of them are played as a joke. Scott gets a harem, Kim goes off to be gay with Knives, Steven dreams that the sex bombs get the success they deserve, Knives gets married to Scott, Nega Scott rules the world, and Wallace becomes king or something. Ramona's ending is the only serious ending, and is the ending true to the story, with her and Scott going on to see where life takes them. Being a beat-em-up, you can assume that Scott Pilgrim has satisfying gameplay, an array of enemies to beat up, and a relatively smooth pace. And you would be right. The game has 7 levels that can be tackled with up to 4 players both offline and online, but you can only play online if you bought the Wallace DLC. The initial 4 characters you can pick are Scott, Steven, Kim, and Ramona, with Nega Scott being unlockable once you beat the game with the other characters, and Knives and Wallace being DLC. Each character has health and guts, the latter of which can be used to revive yourself once you lose all your health, or it can be used to perform special moves like summoning Knives as an assist. Defeated enemies drop Canadian coins, which can be used at the various shops in the game to purchase food, items, or pay Scott's late fees. Food and items can replenish health and guts, boost stats, give you a temporary hyper mode where you flash yellow, move and attack faster, and can build a massive combo on enemies, and in some cases you can find items that give you an extra life. Some items can be taken to go and are automatically used when the player runs out of health. Defeated enemies also gives you experience. Get enough experience and you level up, increasing your health and guts while also giving you special attacks. As you no doubt have picked up on, this game is heavily inspired by River City Ransom, and that's part of the reason I like it so much. The other reason is, well, because it's Scott Pilgrim. Seeing all the characters and locations brought to life in this beautiful pixel art style, fighting all the evil exes with their unique abilities and personalities intact, it honestly feels like you're playing a condensed version of the comics. My favorite detail has to be with the Todd Ingram boss fight. Normally you can't really damage him because his vegan powers shield him from massive harm. So what do? You hit him until he loses control of his powers, letting loose this mismatch of vegetables that looks absolutely stunning. And then the vegan police roll up and subdue Todd with a de-veganizing ray, letting you get in some actual damage. That's so good! Stuff like that, along with using the River City formula that's already great on its own and building upon it to fit with modern day trends, helps Scott Pilgrim create a nice mix of old and new gameplay that leads to an appeasingly well-made game that, in hindsight, maybe wasn't worth getting a new console that I didn't even know the library for. But even to this day, I don't regret my decision in the slightest. Last thing to point out is the extra modes. By using cheat codes at the title screen, you can unlock Boss Rush, where you fight every boss except the secret boss, Mr. Chow, who only appears on the world map at random, and Survival Horror, where you fight an endless wave of zombies for as long as you can. If you got the Knives Chow DLC, then you got 2 extra modes, Battle Royale and Dodgeball, which are both self-explanatory. This soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal. Done by the chiptune legends themselves, Anamanaguchi, their rocking guitars and retro beeps and bloops make for a joyously bopping soundtrack that adds to the overall aesthetic of the game. My favorite tracks include Makiya, Cheap Shop, Rock Club, just like in the movies. Bollywood. Twin Dragons. And finally, Leave the Past Behind. Scott Pilgrim is a gem like no other. With its solid gameplay, amazing soundtrack, and beautiful pixel art done by the Australian weirdo himself, Paul Robertson, Scott Pilgrim is a game you absolutely have to play, except you can't, at least not easily. On December 30th, 2014, the game and its DLC were delisted from PSN and Xbox Live Arcade due to Ubisoft losing the license. For a while, you were able to still buy digital codes from Best Buy, but they have long since gone out of stock. The only method to play the game now is to try and emulate it with RPCS3. But not only are you probably going to need a supercomputer to attempt that, PS3 emulation is still in its very early stages and can be very finicky. But unfortunately, this is the best you can do if you don't already own the game. Maybe one day Ubisoft will port it over to PS4, Xbox, and Switch, but right now, this game only exists as a memory remembered by the people who played it and still own it. And on that downer note, that is all I have to say about Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. As always, let me know what you guys think about this game, and let me know what your experience is with Scott Pilgrim. Only if you want to, though. Thank you all so much for watching, be safe out there, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.
Southside.